Welcome to the Indie Horror Junkie podcast. Tonight, you will be joining Rotting Ricky and Asylum Amy as they play host to some of the true movers and shakers in the indie horror scene. So lock your doors, check under the bed, and get comfortable, because here we go.
And we're the Saska Sisters. And this is Indie Horror Junkie. Indie Horror Junkie.
Indie Horror Junkie.
Indie Horror Junkie.
Indie Horror Junkie.
Indie Horror Junkie.
Indie Horror Junkie.
Indie Horror Junkie.
We're a panic attack.
Indie Horror Junkie.
Indie Horror Junkies.
Indie Horror Junkie. Indie Horror Junkie.
Hello, Junkie.
Rotting Ricky, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing well, and you?
Doing good. Welcome to episode number 75 of the Indie Horror Junkie podcast. Great show lineup tonight. We have writer, director, producer Jacob Perrett. He has an incredible indie horror feature film called SIGIL. We're going to talk about that tonight. He was the winner of the Indie Horror Junkie Film Festival Best of the Fest feature film, so clearly a judge's favorite. But before we bring him on, we'll get into some junkie news. Sound good to you?
Sounds good to me.
We have the upcoming issue number 15, March 13th is going to be the drop date for the Indie Horror Junkie magazine. We have this incredible cover artwork done by our buddy and illustrator Lou Russo. It's our 2-year anniversary, you guys. We're pretty excited about it, and also kind of whoa, that went by fast, but we're celebrating either way, and we hope you celebrate with us. We gave some elements to Lou that were important to us as far as who we are and what we do. So you'll see a lot of fun things there, incorporating the magazine and the podcast and the film festival and some of our movies, including The Clock and the Turning, and maybe some little secret Easter eggs in there that we attach for some upcoming projects that we haven't announced yet. So definitely a fun issue of the magazine. And inside, we're also featuring indie horror hottie Amy Schumacher-Lamorte. You guys know her. We had her on a podcast the week of the film festival. She is the talented lead actress and Screamboat, also one of the producers. And she just has a lot to talk about what they've been doing. And, you know, we love supporting our females in the independent horror genre. So we're going to highlight her and what she's all about. But don't forget about the January issue, speaking of Screamboat, issue number 14, featuring on the cover the murderous mouse himself, played by David Howard Thornton. If you guys were at the film festival with us at MegaCon and you had the pleasure of being one of the lucky people to get into the room before we closed the doors and have packed the house, then you got to join us on the ride of watching this independent horror film. It's so much fun. It's going to be in theaters on April 2nd and 3rd, so make sure you show up. Bring your friends, pack the place out, because we want to support indie horror. It's a limited theatrical release. The more ticket sales they buy on the first and second day, then the longer they get to spend in theaters, you guys. So show up for our friends, and you don't want to miss it anyways. It's a really fun horror slasher. They do an incredible job. Again, David Howard Thornton plays the murderous mouse, so you know it's going to be good. Speaking of film festival, we have the 2026 Indie Horror Junkie Film Festival submissions that are open. So make sure that you head over to Film Freeway if you have an independent horror short or feature film. We want to watch it. So we've already had, I think, 15 submissions come in since we opened up a couple of days ago. So all you judges out there, including me, we got to start watching them as they roll in, because they're going to be coming in. They're coming in hot. We're so excited. We have I believe an extra 10 additional categories we're opening up this year. So lots of ways to be recognized, and we're really excited about that. We also are extending the festival by a day. So prepare for 4 days of indie horror films, because MegaCon runs for 4 days, and we want to take full advantage of that and jam pack as many of your films as possible in there. We want to get you guys to come down and join us. We had so many filmmakers, didn't we? They flew from all over the country. It was amazing, and it was so cool, and it was so fun. It's great networking. It's a great way to just get your film out there. So we definitely want to see you in Orlando March of next year. We have The Clock on Blu-ray, and you can find that on Amazon or indiehorrorjunkie.com. So you'll see some familiar faces in there, writer, director, Rick Danford himself, and you might see me on there as well. But a fun film. We filmed in 5 days on a micro budget just because we could, but you know what? You guys want to check it out. It's a lot of fun. It's our first little junkie film we did a couple years back, and now we're ready to move forward this year with some projects we're not quite ready to talk about, but we're busy working behind the scenes.
Can't wait to talk about them now.
There's a lot going on, you guys. But like we said, we have Jacob on the show tonight. We want to talk about everything behind the scenes for his film, Sigil. But first, let's go ahead and, there you go, right there. Creepy little fun poster and a creepy little fun film. So let's go ahead and get into his trailer, and then we'll bring him on and start the show.
All right, be right back.
Okay, Bridget, let me know if this does anything.
I can't do this. I was thinking maybe renting a place. What were you saying? I wish that I had love like you do. I'm sorry. Did I wake you?
I've been alone for as long as I can remember. But if we were together, then neither of us would ever have to be alone again.
Yeah.
That looks like a good movie.
It does.
It does. Good enough to win Best of the Fest at the Indie Horror Junkie Film Festival. Good evening, Joe King's one of our judges for the festival. So he had the pleasure of watching your film, and Mary as well. So thank you guys for joining.
Oh, thank you.
And thank you. Happy 2 years. That's right. Let's get into it. Tell everyone watching the synopsis of this film.
Sure. Yeah. So Sigil is it's a horror feature film about two girls who during their college break sort of go on a vacation or a retreat to a isolated cabin in the woods to try and fix and rekindle their relationship. But if you've watched any sort of horror movies or read any horror books, anything in the horror genre, going to someplace isolated in the woods is never particularly a good idea. For these girls in particular, they sort of stumble across this sigil posted on one of the trees in the woods, and one of the main characters, Maeve, who's sort of struggling in particular, makes a wish on it that could grant her everything that she desires, but it comes at the cost of the person that she loves the most. So majority of the film, you sort of have that moral dilemma of how much would you sacrifice to get what you want. But there's sort of a blissful ignorance in this case, at least, because Bridget, Maeve's partner, would give her the world, but sort of, her insecurities and everything has sort of blinded her to that. So it's a cautionary tale in some regard.
I'd agree with that. Yeah, very. For me, watching it, it had a A24 vibe to it, a nice slow burn. But then once it hit, and you're like, "Ooh, all right, here we go." And then it just got wild up until the end.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was I'm glad that you felt that way because with slow burns, especially I feel like it's a very divisive thing in the horror community because you have the portion that really is into the whole slow burn, and then you have another majority where they're very they just want to get to the meat and bones and stuff fairly quickly, which I think there's a place for both of those. But
I
you
agree.
know I'm glad that you guys and the judges and everything were into the slow burn vibe because that's typically what I'm drawn to. I like spending time with characters, and what's funny is typically whenever I start a horror project, I try at least to show my actors and my crew sort of films that are inspired me when writing it and everything. And a lot of times I show them drama films as opposed to horror films, which is maybe a little bit different. But I find, and if you've seen Sigil, it's very drama heavy and focused.
Very
Yeah,
relationship
yeah,
focused.
I'm a drama character guy. I think at the end of the day, maybe.
Well, what I loved about it is the slow burn gives the audience the opportunity to really get to know these characters.
Mm,
So when all the crazy and the bad starts happening, like you feel it even more. Yeah, Joseph Keem, he loved the slow burn and the slow building up the dread. Yeah, because then it's like you know these people, and when you care about a character, you don't want
right.
to see anything bad happen to him. And these two in particular, like you wanted them to work everything out and be happy.
Mm.
But I don't no spoilers, right?
Yeah. Well, it's a horror movie. No one ever lives, I guess, happily
Yeah.
ever after in the traditional sense, I guess.
So you like a lot of drama when you get into, I guess you would say that's your inspiration behind writing the characters. As far as the storyline itself, what would you say some of your film inspirations were in particular for this?
It's a good question. So I wrote this, I should mention, with a friend of mine named Rhiannon Schwint. So this is very much a woman's story. We have two female leads. It was very important to me that there be a female voice in the actual writing of the film. So having Rhiannon there with me was very important. But I think myself personally, have you guys heard of Pyewacket?
Pyewacket, I have not.
Yeah, it's a sort of I'm trying to remember what the actress's name is. She was in The Walking Dead. She played Andrea.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. I just don't know her name. With the grayish hair?
Here, I'm gonna look it up real quick. But basically that film is about a young girl who hates her mother and she's sort of into the occult and everything, and does this ritual where it conjures a witch. And I don't know if that's what the Pyewacket is, or if it's called that, or if the ritual is called that. But basically, this witch is summoned to kill the mother. But sort of in the process, the daughter, the mother apologizes for how she's been to her and everything, and she doesn't want her mom to die anymore. But she's already conjured this force that is coming for her. So that film in particular, because Rhiannon had initially brought up the idea of having the main antagonist be a witch. So I was, of course, thinking through different witch movies that I like, and of course I love Robert Eggers is the witch. We're talking about A24. But I was trying to think, what are some sort of interesting take on witches, and Pyewacket was initially what came to me. Yeah, let me get that.
I want to check that out.
I was going to say there's that movie also, Drag Me to Hell from Sam Raimi.
I have seen that as well.
Where they
Yes.
conjured up that one demon to get revenge on that girl, and how they talk
Correct.
about how it slowly builds. Yeah.
Yes. Laurie Holden is her name.
Laurie Holden. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, that's a really cool indie movie. I would
I'm gonna check that
recommend
out.
checking it
Pyewacket.
for sure.
Mary King said, I thought Sigil's characters and performances felt deeply authentic, and they created an incredible foundation for the stress and horror. It did.
It was so stressful.
Yeah.
It was just such a build. I mean, it was this intense, drawn out build. And like I was saying, you did such a good job making us really care about these two characters, and you want that happily ever after. But it just, things got a little intense,
Out of hand.
Yeah. I was talking to
the basement.
Yeah, I was talking to a gentleman from the I believe it was the Rochester Film Office, who had seen the film and really enjoyed it. And he had sort of mentioned how he hadn't seen a lot of horror films specifically that sort of touch on young people in, as the characters in the film are sort of in this transitional stage between youth and adulthood. These are college kids. They when they're not in college, they go back home, and obviously we see Bridget talking with her mother at one point. They still live with their parents, sort of that weird transitional stage, which I thought was interesting. It's something I'm 27 now, but I'm not that far from, I can still remember sort of
it's
that
a vulnerable
age.
Well. You're still learning about yourself. You're still learning about relationships. I think what was so terrifying for me when, I kept coming back to this film, was the situation that these girls were in. There's nothing scarier than being afraid of somebody that you're stuck in a house with. Okay, so like it could be a family member, a friend, but when it's just two people, it's so real. Like it's like, oh God, this could really happen. It's not one of those out there supernatural horror films. It's not anything over the top. It's so intimate and so raw. And you're just seeing the inner thoughts of these people come to life. And it's terrifying because it's one, we hear about stuff on the news, like, lovers killing other lovers. Right. And we know these things happen. And I think that's what really was terrifying for me was this is one of those situations that it feels so real. It almost felt like you were watching something you shouldn't be watching. Like you were a fly on the wall. You shouldn't be seeing any of this. But when stuff like this really happens in real life, like maybe not the witch stuff, but maybe it is, it just the kill itself, watching the transition from, I love you till I'm going to kill you and you're not going to stop me. Like that's that switch that happened.
Right. And especially like for me, for example, like my wife is, she's the closest person that I have in my life. And she brings me so much joy and safety and comfort and everything. And if that were to all say, something in her change and that go away, that in itself would be so detrimental to me, let alone the fact that if I were in Bridget and Maeve's case, she would want to kill me. But
because it's a trick of the mind, you don't want to believe it. And you have a hard time believing it. And that's what's so scary. Like this person is incapable of hurting me. Like you said, this is my safety. This is my comfort. This is my trust. This is my home. They're not going to hurt me. But then when you realize that they have different intentions, that scares the crap out of me. You did a really good job scaring us with that aspect and writing of the film, because that to me is what stood out amongst, some of the other elements. But as far as the story goes, that really captivated me.
For sure. Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
So really fun writing. Is this your first feature film?
No. So my first feature film was called Weird Fiction. It was an anthology, sort of in the vein of like 80s movies, slashers, monster movies, stuff like that.
I love it already.
Actually, I have which I'm not an actor, but I did act in this one out of necessity. I have the poster right there, and that's me with
Nice.
Long hair and wigged out, kind of looking kind of spooky. No, so that was technically my first feature. I did my first two features were anthologies because at the time I I'm sure, as you guys know, it's really difficult making a feature film, especially when you have, you know, no money, no location, no nothing. So I found it was easier for me to, or more digestible perhaps, to shoot short films that were all, you know, sort of related to one another in sense of tone, and then just put them together as a package and say, this is my feature, you know.
Yeah, I love that.
So I did that, my first two features, and then I did a couple others. One was called Creature in the Dark, which I shot with my longtime working partner, Taylor Rhodes. He had just had a baby at the time, and it was very much like, oh man, like how are we gonna, you know, work around filming, because now he has his family. I wrote a feature with his family in it and the baby's in it, and so that was sort of how that worked out. But no, Sigil was a lot of people characterize it as like a big step up in quality and everything. And so not that it is my first feature, but I kind of consider it maybe to be my first feature in that regard. It's almost like the films before that were like film school or like learning or something like
I gotcha.
that. I don't know.
No,
Taylor
I
Groups.
that.
Yeah, there he is.
Speaking of locations, was this an Airbnb? Was it a a family friend's place? And it's great that you could shoot in one location, but
yeah.
Where'd you guys find this?
Yeah, so shooting in one location came out of necessity of I have $5,000 to shoot this film.
Yeah.
And so I have to, you know, obviously keep cast minimal, keep locations minimal. But yes, this was an Airbnb in Springboro, Pennsylvania, which is semi close to you know where we all live over here, and it was kind of a funny situation. So I pay, you know, the normal rental fees for properties when I shoot there. I always shoot in Airbnbs. That's just what I have to do. But I'm always very upfront with you know the owners, like, hey, I'm shooting a movie. That's why I'm booking, you know, this week, you know, all these particular dates and whatnot. And I want to obviously have a good relationship with them and everything. But of course, when you're in nowhere, Pennsylvania, and people are, and you tell someone, hey, I want to shoot a movie in your house, they're like, what does that mean? You know, a lot of times, yeah, they're like thinking it's explicit material or something like that, which if that were the case, why would I don't know, bring it up. But anyways, no, I had an interesting interaction when I was looking for the cabin for Sigil, where I was talking with the lady, and she was all on board until I told her that it was a horror film, and she had basically sort of taken a step back and was like, oh, we have spirits. I don't know if she used the word spirits, but basically spirits on the property, on the grounds, that would not take well to there being a horror film shot here. And we were like, oh. So I thought that was interesting, and I don't know if it's because that's true or if it was just, oh, I don't like horror movies, you can't shoot here. I don't know.
There's some kind of ancient burial ground.
Right. Yeah.
Well, you know?
I mean, down here we have lots of Indian burial grounds, so I
Yeah.
could definitely see something like that being in our area the case. But for you, I don't really know.
Yeah. I found that I had to do this for the film that I'm shooting now as well. Whenever I'm talking to someone, and of course they ask the inevitable question of what's the film about, what's this and that. I don't use the word horror. I use the word thriller, and that seems to totally change people's perception and say, yeah, shoot it at, you know, our house. And then
It cut out for just a second. Did you say you used the word thriller?
Thriller instead of horror. Yeah.
Okay. So maybe it just cut out for me,
No,
but
that's
it
okay.
definitely cut out.
Yeah, and that seems to be the safe word.
It's a safer word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the stigma is, if people think that we're going to destroy, you know, their house or get blood everywhere or do something, you know, desecrate something. But I don't know. At least in my experience, like with my crew, we're shooting like, you know, a horror film, and a lot of times it's really you know, heavy subject matter, but like we goof off in between, and it's such a fun time. Everything's a really controlled environment, and I'm just like, why do people get so afraid to have this go on in their in their place. I don't know.
I think it's just like you said. I think that the moment you say horror film, they're automatically thinking they're going to splatter blood all over the place.
Yeah, they don't want their property
you know,
destroyed.
exactly.
Right.
They're going to bring in a Ouija board and conjure up all kinds of demons that I'm going to have to live with.
Mhm.
You know, to me, those are pluses, but somebody else might not do that, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense. So I'm just saying thriller moving forward. I'll save myself some of the headache.
Dark thriller.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you guys kind of shot over the course of several different weekends. Is that how you got all the days in?
Yeah. Which I believe I heard prior to coming on here that you guys shot your feature in 5 days. Was that correct?
We did. We shot at a historical 100-year-old haunted home in Brooksville, Florida, and the owner stayed on property the entire time, and we had 5 days to shoot.
Was he like watching or like looming, or was he doing his own thing?
Well, she wasn't. I wouldn't say looming. She had a dog or something like that, and she's an artist also, so she had this back room that she went into and was doing her work. But every once in a while, she'd come out and chat and see what's going on and stuff like that. But you know, that was pretty much it. But she was on site the whole time, and most of the shooting was there in that house.
Yeah, it was 5 days. Like, we're not ever doing that again. It was more of like a challenge. I think. Let's see what we can do in 5 days. Well, just because you pull really long hours, Rick. That's my only comment. Long hours.
19-hour day, and you're all worn out. Come on.
Yeah. Well,
that's
was
a challenge for me because I was driving an hour there and an hour back, and we're working, 19-hour days.
Yeah.
But you know, we had our budget, and we had this house, and you know, Rick had this story, and it's like we're either going to do it or not do it, and so we're just crazy enough that that's what we did.
Well, that's really impressive that you guys were able to do that, because I'm trying to think back to Sigil, which was a smaller. Was your film mainly one location, that house?
Well, I had actually talked to a friend of mine, and he's the one that convinced me to make this movie for this budget. He told me what you want to do is you want to have 1 to 2 locations tops. You want to have maybe 3 to 4 actors tops, and then you want to shoot it in 5 days. So I wrote a script that had 8 locations, 32 cast members. We shoot it in 5 days. You know?
Wow. Yeah. I can't think of the number. Like with Sigil, I want to say we were in the cabin itself for probably like 7 or 8 days.
Okay.
Which it was a lot. And what's funny is I have so many people who worked with me who share such love and affinity for that cabin. They had such a good time there, and it holds, obviously special memories and whatnot. I hate that cabin. I wanted to get out of it so bad.
Were you guys staying there when you were filming?
No, and that was talked about, but I was like, for that project, I'm trying to remember why, but I was editing the film as we were shooting it. So like we were shooting on Mondays. So I would shoot on Monday, edit what we had, and then prep for the next Monday, which was a terrible way of doing things. I would not.
Did you do that just to make sure that you got all your shots in?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which in retrospect, I got on my. Yeah. Oh no, I'll never do it again. No, with the project I'm doing now, first of all, it's a little bit bigger, so I think I doubled the amount of shoot days. I think we have 18 or 19 total. And I'm not editing it as I'm going. I do like rough edits if I'm unsure about something. Oh, do I want this instead? But I'm editing it this summer. I'm not I'm not doing that again.
What do you shoot on?
You asked what I shoot on?
Yeah, what kind of camera?
Yeah, I shoot on a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 4K. And I use I'm trying to think of what the brand is. There's Rokinon, and then some of them are Samyang. It's the same brand, I want to say, but there's a different name based on where it's maybe built or packaged, whatever. But I use Rokinon cinema lenses, and those are really, I think, because I see other people who shoot on Blackmagic. Sometimes really good. Sometimes I'm like, oh, that footage doesn't look. I believe
the clock was shot on Blackmagic, right?
Was shot on Blackmagic, and he had the anamorphic lenses, and as well. So
the lenses are what matters.
It really does. Yeah, that's why I was asking. Yeah. Because we have a lot of filmmakers and stuff that watch this also as well. So we'd like to try and pry into, what you've done and how you did it for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's what I shot on, and this was actually the first project I had a designated sound guy. So luckily, I did the mixing before, but as he and I sort of joke, he has the ear, I have the eye. I don't have the ear at all. So you watch any previous film, it's like I was trying to make it sound good, but yeah, he did a really good job.
We definitely need our sound guys.
Absolutely.
If not good, it throws things off. No, we love our sound guys. Shout out, if you are.
I do have a couple of pictures here I'd like to bring up so you can kind of let us know what's happening here.
Sure.
Okay, so let's start out right here.
Yeah, so that's Bridget and Maeve. Bridget on the left, Maeve on the right.
Who is Carly Mihailov? Is that how you say it?
Mihailo, yeah.
And Isabella Rodriguez.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, sharing a sort of, we were talking about the emphasis on character. There's one of the moments that they're sharing with one another prior to things going south.
Yeah, I love the way that shot is lit too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
This is a shot of Maeve looking rather distressed. She's gotten her finger bitten, which fortunately, unfortunately, our makeup lady wasn't there that day. So fortunately, her husband, who's Taylor, who I mentioned earlier, he did this finger real quick based on, sort of, he's watched her over the years do things, and he's like, I think I could be able to do it. And he did a really good job. And I don't know if I mentioned this before. I mentioned my wife. Carly is my wife. And she, I know I'm biased, obviously, because we're married, but she did such a phenomenal job. And
great performances by both of them. Yeah, they were just a lot of fun to watch. Like I said, very grounded in their performances. And
another moment here. I love the wallpaper. Yeah.
I was going to say the same thing.
It's awesome. And that's like my go-to still for the film, just because obviously it captures this very spooky moment with the mouth and everything. But the wallpaper is really, I like it a lot.
We all need wallpaper in our house.
This is Bridget. Yep. Things are tensing up.
Here we go.
Yeah, so this is my wonderful cast and crew that I worked with. We got obviously the actresses in the front. Oh, there's Casey in the back with the partial witch makeup on, which she had to walk around like that all day on set, which she's a champ for doing. Yeah. That's my assistant director on this project was Jacob Gooseman. He's wearing the Misfits t-shirt. That's Rhiannon next to him, my co-writer. And Liam is to my left in the corner with he's looking kind of goofy. He's my sound guy. Love him to bits.
I think he's too young for that Misfits shirt, isn't he?
I got a number, right?
I was gonna say I have one. I wasn't wearing it that day, but
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Oh wait, we got one more. Where are we at? There we go.
Oh yes, we have the ladies there. And again, props to them as a non-actor. Seeing the lengths to which they go, not only in terms, obviously, their acting, but like physically, like Isabella had to get drugged through water and mud on the basement floor and blood, and Carly had to crawl across the floor, and she's got hair and dirt and stuff sticking to her. Props to them. That would be a sensory nightmare for myself. Here's we got a mid shot. I'm trying to think of what scene this was. I can't quite remember, but as you can see, our crew is very small, and it continues to be very small, and that's in part by that's all the people that we have who are interested. And partly because I kind of like small crews, because everything's more, especially with this film, everything is so intimate and vulnerable, and the more people you have around, the more that it becomes difficult to really get that feeling, I feel like.
And if you guys are working together, then everybody's pitching in and doing multiple roles.
Mhm.
You can rely on each other to get things done. So, if you
Right.
get a skeleton crew, you can still get quite a bit done. Even by these shots, this flick is not intriguing. Yeah, Dylan is also one of our judges for Indie Horror Junkie. So
Oh, thanks, Dylan.
these are people who have watched the film and loved it.
Mm.
And also some of his feedback was the A24 vibe as well.
Mhm.
I think we all kind of picked up on that and felt it with that slow burn. But
Mhm.
there was a appreciation of the artistic choice you took in that slow burn intro, like we were saying.
Mm.
Another scene that I loved that we don't have an image of was the bathtub scene
Okay.
where
Mm.
the humming.
Yeah,
is
yeah.
Who
Yeah.
obviously you wrote that in there.
Mhm.
Did the actress, did you give her the freedom to kind of come up with this tune, or was it
Mm.
something that you created and had her mimic? How did that all play out?
So any of the witch like singing or humming or anything was not done on that day. It was done in post because
Okay.
honestly, we were trying to figure out what it should be for the longest time, how it should go. And fortunately, as I mentioned Liam earlier, he does my sound and my mixing. He is a music artist as well. So he wrote the Witch's song. And I believe it was Isabella who ended up doing the singing and the humming for it. Hers just came out sounding it's almost like beautifully haunting, which is
It
what we were
is.
going
Yeah, it's
for.
really cool. Like, I want you to get it and have it up on socials where you can attach it to your
Mhm.
marketing. So when you have a
I
picture
know.
or you're posting something, we hear that witch's hum because it's like you said,
Yeah.
it's beautiful, it's haunting, it's feminine, but it's also very different. And I
Mm.
appreciate that scene a lot. So I was curious of how
Yeah.
whose idea the humming was.
Yeah. It's all Liam. Yeah. Yeah. He came up with the he doesn't write music, but yeah, he came up with, I don't know if he played it on piano or what he did, but yeah, he did wonderful.
Very
So
cool.
cool.
Yeah.
One of the things that we did for the festival, I wanted to get your thoughts on this because we ourselves are filmmakers as well. So we try to do with our film festival and everything what we would have liked to see, because so many times we enter movies into our film festivals and then we'll either just get an official your selection or denial, and there's pretty
Mm.
much nothing else. So we
Right.
gave those feedback cards to all the
Yeah.
selected films, and we got so much great feedback saying, "Man, this is something we wish everybody else would do." What did you think of when you saw your feedback card and some of the comments about your film?
Yeah. Well, I loved it, and all of the comments were very very positive. Obviously, whenever you're getting judges' feedback, you never know really what the audience is and if it's going to be good feedback or bad feedback. But no, from the judge feedback from your guys' festival was it was all great and good stuff, and I appreciated it very much.
Yeah, because to me, as a filmmaker, that at the end of the day, if my film's not going to win or anything like that, at least if I can get some kind of feedback, make sure that
Sure.
not only does it prove to me that yes, my movie was watched, but also it'll give me something to work on to find out what worked, what didn't work, things like that. So I wanted to make sure that everybody had some feedback like that.
Sure. Yeah, I loved it. It was a joy to read through those. Yeah.
Taylor, we're proud of you too.
Yeah. I'm proud of you, Taylor.
That's so cool. You got your people tuning in. Jared, what's up, Jared Timpton? He is our winner for the short film Best of the Fest.
Last week.
Oh, that was the what was it?
The Parcel.
The Parcel, that's right. Yeah. I want to watch that. I did watch his episode prior to this. And it sounds the short film sounds very interesting.
It's a lot of fun.
It is a
Definitely
lot
a
of fun.
judge's favorite. So, and we had the pleasure of having him there. But where is that awesome picture of Jacob here with his where he's got his trophy, because we had to send you your trophy because you weren't able to take it
You
out.
need that one right there, the tattoo on his forehead.
Go.
So thank you for sending us that in, because it just made us smile to actually see you holding it. And it's just it's a cool feeling. I know it is for you, but it is for us as well. We have these panel of judges that all take the time to watch all these films, and when it gets down to like the last few films, we're like, we have to pick a film, we have to pick the best.
Yeah.
But,
It came down to the wire with that, but the Sigil was one that everybody thought was something.
We
special.
just kept going back to it for
Yeah.
different reasons. We all had our reasons for it, so we're like, all right, that's it.
Yeah.
Well, you're gonna send it to Taylor.
Yeah, he came to my house and he held it.
Okay.
So he did see
I
it.
love that.
Well
deserved. I agree.
Yes, it was my my dad's in the chat. Hi, Dad.
Hi, Dad.
Oh,
It was my intention
Love
to come down to Florida for the fest. I had the fortune of going to the Salem Horror Fest, which obviously I have a witch movie and it's the witch capital of the world, so it's like I have to go to that one.
yeah.
But yeah,
There's always next year, Jacob. You got
absolutely
anything working on?
Absolutely, I do. Well, what I'm working on is the reason why I couldn't go down to Florida, because it would have been a situation where I'm there that night and I would have to shoot the next morning, and I was like, that's a bit of a stretch. Yeah.
So you're in the works for something. Are we allowed to talk about it?
Yeah, I can. I can say a little bit. It's another horror feature. Actually, speaking of Salem, so I'll sort of do a background with that. So, yes, as I mentioned, fortunate enough to go to the Salem Horror Festival. While I was there, I met an individual named Elliot Gibson who had another film playing there called Sweet Relief, and he had reached out to me and said, are you looking for a distributor for the film? And I said, yeah. And so he's like, oh, I have this production company or distribution company. And, so that's sort of how we started our relationship with one another. So his company is Art Brute Films. They are distributing Sigil. We're just not sure 100% if we're going to have streaming, but we're not sure about physical or like timeline. Like I don't have a date yet, like, oh, it's going to be available, but it is coming and it is going to be this year. But anyways, yeah. So Elliot,
you'll have to let us know, not to interrupt you, when it is available. Tag us so we can share it and let everybody know.
Absolutely. Yeah, Elliot, him and I were talking. He's like, do you have any other films that you have in the works? I was like, yeah, I'm working on this one now. He was kind enough to be the sole producer on my current project, which is called Photo Negative. And which it's such a blessing to have a singular backer, because I don't know if you guys have done crowdfunding, but it's kind of
I haven't gone down that road yet. It scares me. So. Rick knows. I'm like,
well, it's
a full-time job and I'm afraid of it.
Yeah, it's so difficult because people are buying overly priced t-shirts, Blu-rays, merch for a film that doesn't exist yet. How do I make good merch and stuff like that for a film that doesn't exist yet? And so I've always struggled with that. And I feel like I never want to rip anyone off in terms of like products. So I'm like just always trying my best with that. And then, as a portion of it goes to the platform. So whether that's Kickstarter or Indiegogo, a chunk of that money goes out, and then a chunk of that money you are putting towards purchasing all of the materials to make these merch products, Blu-rays, DVDs, everything. So really, at the end of the day, you don't have any money to put towards your film.
And you've gone through all that work and stress and.
Right. And with Sigil, it was a situation where I think we raised $2,500 from crowdfunding. I had 2 private investments of about $500, and then I put in like $1,000 myself, and so that composed the budget. But I ain't no rich guy, so that really took me a while to
really spread out that money, though. I'll say that the production quality of this film, I know that you guys had a skeleton crew in one location, and that really helps keep the expenses down, which is really, really smart on your end. But you guys did a really great job with that budget. That that is something that like I want people watching right now that are inspired to make films. Like, yeah, you get some people together and you can come up with, you know, a small enough budget to get it done. You know, everybody collaborates and they donate their talents and their time and their efforts. And, you know, if you really want to do something and you have a story, $5,000 can take you there.
Exactly. It's all about a lot of it's about spending. Obviously, I'm going to say this and it's going to be like, oh, well, duh. But spending your money in the right places. You know, you have this limited amount. You know, obviously, everyone wants to get Nick Cage in their movie or whatever. But you know, putting it towards things that people are going to notice, like your camera, your cinematography, your composer, like those are. And here's the thing, like I have been blessed with a group of actors and actresses who are really solid, who have no professional background, maybe did a couple plays, you know, in high school or something like that. But if you really, as a director, if you're really clear with your vision and, you know, show them, you know, help them along down the right path, anyone, I don't want to say anyone can be an actor, but your best friends, your parents, your this, that, whatever, it can happen for sure. Yeah.
You definitely got to get creative with $5,000, but it can be done. So,
it can be done. Yeah.
A shit ton of time in prep. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. And don't edit your film while you're shooting it.
Don't edit your film while you're shooting.
I actually had a little cup. I actually had a little cup made where I had written on it says we'll fix it in post, but I had the post scratched out below it. It said prep. So that's
Rick and I are huge on prep. I'm a little more Nazi about it, but because I can't stand to go into anything on the production side, or if I'm an actress in the film, like I have to be 110% prepared, because I would be mortified if I showed up on set on the production side and ran a circus, because, you know, these people are going to come back and want to work with me. I want to be on it. I want to stay on time. I don't want to go into another day and go over budget. And as an actress, like I don't, you know, we're very particular about who we work with, and it is your job to show up prepared for your role. So it's either, you know, stress out and do the work at home and put the work in and be over prepared. That way, when you get on set, you have the flexibility of being redirected and you can play with your scene partners and you can really dig in there and, you know, kind of discover these, you know, nooks and crannies of the story and the characters that you can't do on your own, but you can feed off of other people. So definitely pre-production, I'm sure, played a lot into what you guys did. And definitely with the actresses, they seemed comfortable with each other. It seemed like you guys did a good job on that pre-production as well. So
yeah. And this is something that I don't hear being talked about very often, but obviously we're sort of in an era as far as filmmaking goes right now where intimacy coordination is becoming more and more important and prevalent. Whereas when you think about it, it's a very new thing, and it is unfortunately not something that a lot of independent productions like SIGIL, we can't afford, you know, intimacy coordination and stuff like that, which I don't know. I think obviously we did the best that we can with you know, sort of building the relationship between Maeve and Bridget, but that was something that was brought to my attention that you know, I think about sometimes, you know, just like that's such an important role on set, and it's something that small productions cannot afford. And it's
I agree. But if you guys did your due diligence and making sure that everybody who came on board knew exactly what it was that they were getting into, it's not like you're like, hey, surprise, we're doing this scene, and they didn't know about it. As long as they have that, you know, in the memo and in their contract, and they're comfortable with it, and you guys do a good job of having a closed set and making everybody feel comfortable. You know, if it's discussed and it's discussed properly, you know, okay. But I do agree, you know, if it were a different situation or more intimate, like you do want that safety on set. It's important for everybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but also, like we were talking about before, to me, it's like, especially when it comes to the actors and actresses and stuff like that, when you're getting them on set, you want to provide them with a professional atmosphere. Everything has to,
absolutely.
I mean, from the table reads at the beginning to knowing everything that's going on. to getting
Yeah.
on set, to knowing exactly what's going to happen,
Yeah.
making sure everything runs by the numbers. I mean, that goes a long way to making people feel comfortable, making
Right.
people feel safe. And that's one of the things when we talk to my partner Amy, is like, I love having a family type set. I like when people finish making our movies or whatever they're talking about, with a fun time they had on set, doing what they got, and wanting to get back together again. And you can only do that by being professional, keeping everybody in the loop, having a plan, and putting it in play.
But we're upfront
Right.
about it. I mean, we have a
Absolutely.
chunk of one of the contracts that's a code of conduct. And if you
Mm.
break that code of conduct, we have the right to tell you to leave. We don't have to tell you why. We can
Right.
just say you're out of here. You know, that's a breach of contract, because safety is important, comfortability is important. You want to provide a safe space where people can just come in and, you know, give themselves artistically.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yes to all of that, because nightmares
Yeah.
do happen. I have heard about some things that have
Oh,
happened on
yeah.
set, and it's sometimes it's the production's fault, sometimes it's both people's fault. Like, you
Right.
know, you knew it was there. Did you not ask, you know, like, did you not have a contract? You have to be able to protect yourself both on the production side and on the actor side. Like, read these contracts. I've turned down films that I was cast for, that once I've gotten, you know, it was an intimacy thing. It was a contractual thing, that if I
Yeah.
sign this one line right here, this might hurt me down the road in another production. And I asked to take it out, and they didn't. So I said I couldn't do it. Read those contracts line by line, protect yourself. That's a big thing I can say to anybody watching
Yeah.
right now. If you're on the production side, make sure it's solid. Make sure you have the liability, you know, if something were to go wrong. And if you're an actor, you know, don't just sign it. I you know, I've been to sets where people are, you know, didn't sign their paperwork when they received it, and so they're being handed it when they get on set. They don't even read it. They just sign
Yep.
and hand it over. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
So always protect yourself, both sides. Read
For
those
sure.
contracts.
So where exactly what area do you live in?
So I'm northwestern Pennsylvania. So if you know Erie, Lake Erie, I'm a little bit of ways from there.
They have that horror film festival up there, the Erie Horror.
Yes, that
really
was
big one, at least it was.
Yes, that was SIGIL's debut was up there, and it was fantastic. I loved it, and it's like that was fortunately, obviously, I was able to go to that one because I live so close. It's such a positive festival experience, and
Definitely good things about them.
yeah, I love it. I would love to go there again. Yeah.
Well, one question I always have for everybody that I definitely want to find out from you is, in your area there in Pennsylvania, what's the indie film scene like? Some people tell us that it's almost non-existent. Other people like, oh, they're making movies here all the time, and there's giant groups of people that always get together. What's that scene like, and how difficult is it for you to pull a movie together in your area?
Yeah. So it's very slim. Yeah, the scene is very slim. And the productions do happen, but they're so in Erie, I'm talking specifically. They're so I feel like few and far between that I don't know, it's hard to call it a scene, you know, because it's, you know, but and also, unfortunately, I'm not trying to like talk bad about it or anything, but it's very cliquey as well. Like it's almost like you know, once you've worked with a group of people and you know that they're going to be what you need, they're reliable, they're, you know, this, that, whatever, you work well with them, you're going to use them for every production, which is great.
I think that's all over. I think it's fair to say that, you know, Rick and I wouldn't say that we're cliquey, but we know who we like to work with, and those are the people we bring back. But because, you know, there is a budget and everything's time sensitive, and you want people to show up, and you know you can count on them to do their job. So not necessarily anything wrong with it.
Yeah, I think for me, it comes out of like I have the same group that I work with, but it's because they are the only people in the area who have expressed any sort of interest. I guess I'm talking Meadville specifically. That's the town where I'm from, which is it's very small. And it out here sort of like if you want to be creative, you either you basically do like theater or something like that. And so the art scene is very small. We actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, we had a film shot in Meadville called Pig Hill, which it's not out yet, but we have a local legend here, which basically, you know, I don't know how many years ago it was. There was a hill in Meadville that was sort of used as a quarantine for people who were suffering from leprosy.
Ooh.
And like their like parts of them would fall off and their nose would fall off, hence why they would call them the pig people. And so that what is you know,
One's frozen, or is it me?
So you're saying that
was everybody just in and out, or was that just me?
I think it
was
was
that
you.
my reception?
I think it's just you.
Okay.
So
all of a sudden I look, everybody's gone. I was like, what happened?
yeah. So you're basically saying that your film scene in Erie is so small that if you go on Facebook and put out a casting call, the only response you get is from Taylor?
It'll be Taylor and or I don't know, it just depends on the project. We have like, I feel like certain guys who like, if they make a casting call, like everyone knows them, let's go do them. No one knows Jacob Perrett. So when Jacob Perrett posts, they're like, nah, this guy's, you know, too small, or, you know,
let them know that you won best feature film with
I know, right?
And that just goes like hats off to you. You're talking about you've got this, small town,
right there.
Group of people, and like look what you guys just did, you know. And
Right.
That's what I love about film festivals is they give platforms. So I'm happy to see you, you know, entering in other festivals and getting the name out there because you know you're doing something right. People really enjoyed this film. Hi Jamie, we love this film. All the judges had a lot of fun, you know, making our notes and discussing it. So you got a micro budget, a skeleton crew, you're in the middle of nowhere and people are paying attention. So I hope that gives you some inspiration to keep going. You clearly have the mind for it and the brains and the inspiration and the drive behind it. So, you know, let everybody there know who you are and what you're doing because it's important and it matters. And you guys, you know, job well done. Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. I read a book from Rick Rubin. It was I believe it was Rick Rubin. It was on creativity, and he had mentioned there's a line in there that says creative people don't create because they you know feel the need to. They create because that is like their life's purpose. It's a necessity, and I feel like that. You know, is sort of my situation, even though I'm in a small area. I don't create because like, oh, I have to. It's like, no, like I need to create in order to survive type thing.
Yeah, but that outlet that there's no other outlet. You just got to do this, but you're doing it well. We personally can't wait to see what you're doing next. So really enjoyed SIGIL. Thank you for your team, Jacob. Again, Joseph is at the festival.
I think Amy locked up there. So while she's locked up there,
she's gonna come back and she'll be like, "What? Does anyone say anything?"
We got about a minute. So anything else you want to say about Photo Negative? Is it going to be ready to submit to our film festival for 2026?
What's for 2026? What's your deadline?
Right now, we don't. The deadline, I believe, is February.
I would say maybe January.
February. Yeah,
it'll be ready.
Because the event is March.
Yeah, it'll be ready. We are fortunate. We do have some bigger festivals keeping an eye on the project. So, which I don't want to say because I don't know at the end of the day what's going to happen. We're hoping to have our debut be at one of those early 2026. Your festival obviously has a special place in my heart, so I'd love to send it to you as well. But yeah, I'm really excited for Photo Negative. If you like SIGIL, you like this one. Very similar in vibe. I have more money, so I can do more, which is great. And
with Photo Negative, let us know when you're ready to market that, so we can bring you back on the podcast and talk about it. So we can get you a featured article in the magazine and just get the word out there. Hey, Jeff, one of our fellow Central Florida actors. He's so much fun to work with.
Hey, Jeff.
Well, that sounds great. So what we're going to do basically now is we're going to put you back in the green room again. And if you could just hang on just for a minute, we're going to close the show out real quick. Then we want to give you a proper goodbye. So just hang out for a minute or so. Any last where people can find you on social media?
Yeah, I have a YouTube channel called Something Sinister. I do a lot of horror-related content, especially if you're into like internet horror specifically. A lot of people like my voice, so I do like readings and stuff like that. So that's where I'm at mostly, and yeah, enjoy doing it. Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll pop you back there, and we'll chat with you again in just a minute. Okay.
Thanks,
Sounds
Jacob.
good.
Thank you, Jacob. Oh, didn't mean to cut him off there, but all right. Well, another very successful show. Another show I could have sat there all day just talking filmmaking with him and stuff. I love getting into the nuts and bolts, and I know a lot of people watching do as well. So,
like we were saying, micro budget, skeleton crew, they're out in the middle of nowhere, and they're out here, you know, racking up the acclimates for their films. So if it's something that you guys have in your heart to do, get out there with your friends and do it. Thank you everybody for watching. We had some of their people on from the production. We had some of our film festival judges and friends, and Jared Timpton, who was our winner of the parcel. So definitely thank you guys for joining us, hanging out, and we'll see you next Wednesday. Later, junkies.